Good afternoon. My name is Amalia Deligiannis, and I'm the editor of Plumbing Engineer magazine. We are here again for another episode of PHCPPros Live here at the AHR Expo in Las Vegas, Nevada. Joining me today is Aaron Markward from ThermOmegaTech. Hi, Aaron.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you today?
I'm great. Thanks for asking.
Thanks for taking time to speak to me this afternoon.
Mhm.
Why don't we begin with a little bit about yourself? Tell me what you do for ThermOmegaTech.
So I'm the commercial plumbing sales manager for ThermOmegaTech. So what I do, I'm tasked with the responsibility of working with our rep channel. So we sell exclusively through reps, and what I do is I set goals for them, I travel with them, I explain the products to our engineering and contracting customers.
Okay, and so when it comes to explaining to your customers, do you do a lot of training and development type of classes related to that, or how does that work?
Yeah, so we have presentations geared around all of our products. My specialty product would be the circuit solver.
Okay.
And what I do is I go around and do these presentations for the engineers, contractors, to educate them on a way to better balance their systems, their domestic hot water systems, because it is an extremely difficult thing to do. What's done typically in the industry is manually balancing these systems, and it's not working, it's not modern. Thermostatically balancing is becoming much more, it's becoming more focused on in the industry.
Okay, great. So tell me a little bit about ThermOmegaTech and why their specialty. How about that?
So ThermOmegaTech is a thermostatic valve company in general. So pretty much all of our products are based around the same technology. They open and close based on temperature, these valves.
Uh-huh.
We have three different sectors, let's call them. We have industrial, A&D, and commercial plumbing.
Okay.
And all of these are going to be what makes up ThermOmegaTech.
Okay.
And these products will basically provide solutions for, like I said before, the industrial, commercial plumbing, and aerospace and defense communities in very simple and easy ways.
Okay, so a newbie like myself, as you are aware, I explained that I'm new to the industry. Could you explain to me a little bit about your products and why they're important?
Yeah, so the product that I focus on that I could tell you the most about would be the
Okay.
circuit solver. So what the circuit solver does is takes an age-old problem of balancing these domestic hot water systems and turns it on its head, because what it does is it maintains temperature throughout your building at all times with no issues, where manual balancing valves, they have a lot of issues.
Okay.
The path of least resistance is the thing that we're trying to account for when we balance these systems.
Okay.
And there's no human error with the circuit solver, whereas with manual balancing valves, they have to be adjusted correctly, and it's very specific, and they're not dynamic. There's conditions that are constantly changing in these buildings. And with
Okay.
the circuit solver, it will automatically balance the system based on temperature. So the valve opens when hot water is needed and
Okay.
closes when it's satisfied with hot water.
So it's automatically controlled by the temperature of the water and no need to adjust,
Exactly.
make any adjustments.
Yeah. So it's
That's
going
great.
to, like I said, close off when it's at temperature, maintaining the temperature for the fixtures, giving it instant hot water, and then open up when it needs hot water. So
Okay.
yeah, automatically.
All right. Well, as you know, we've gone through quite a few changes in the last few years from the pandemic,
Yeah.
but for the plumbing industry overall,
Mhm.
what kind of changes have you observed over the last 5 years? I mean, going into the pandemic, going through the pandemic, trying
Yeah.
to get out of the pandemic.
That's a great question. So it's many-folded. So I've noticed that we've become a little bit more flexible in the plumbing industry, whereas we've been rigid before. We're not set in our ways as much as we were. A lot of technology is coming out, and it's being adopted pretty quickly. Whereas 8 years ago, when Circuit Solver came out, it took a lot of work from our reps, our representatives, and getting into the engineering community and letting them know this is what this valve does, and getting them to change their thought process on the way it's done, because it's never been done this way before. I think we've really adopted it, even in the past 3 years, a lot more of that technology.
And what do you think motivated this change, this flexibility?
So COVID did actually have an impact. It obviously had an impact on the world. It had an impact on individuals at a higher level, I'm sure. But COVID gave us the idea that we need to be adaptable. So we're not
Okay.
going to offices as much anymore. We have to be able to meet with our different various sectors in our companies and stuff. So what we have to do is we have to adapt. We have to start going on Zoom meetings, Teams calls. So I think a big portion of the adaptability came from the fact that COVID does exist.
Well, there is a benefit then. That's
Yeah.
That's the light at the end of the tunnel, you know, if
Yes.
we can continue with that flexibility. What role do you think ThermOmegaTech and Circuit Solver has played from this renaissance, this change with flexibility
Yeah, so
and
I
adopting
think
newer technologies?
it's another good question. So I think that ThermOmegaTech is it is a good paver of the way because our technology hasn't been adopted. So it hasn't been adopted easily in the beginning. It's now very much adopted and is probably the standard in balancing. But I would say it took so long, and the persistence that we showed and the fact that people now know our name and they know that we had a product that 8 years ago nobody knew about and now people know us. I think that really showed that, you know, the adaptability was needed and that people are willing to change, and making these new innovative products is something that's going to force the change too.
Wow, that's great. Do you think, okay, we talked a little bit about how the COVID pandemic, and how do you think the pandemic as a whole, we talked about how it's impacted your company becoming more flexible, but how has it impacted the industry as a whole?
The industry as a whole, so it's certainly been hard to get parts everywhere. Everyone's lead times for everything has just been substantial, and supply of things have just, it's hard to get stuff right now for anyone. And I think, again, it comes down to what are we willing to do to help each other? We see that people are in need, and we're willing to help each other, be adaptable, overcome this together.
So, like, could you provide me an example of how you guys have helped each other to be more adaptable?
So it's more in a general sense. So we have partners that we work with that will help us source new products that we need. If they can't provide us with the product, they're very willing to be flexible and say, well, we know our competitor has this product over here, and we can help you get this now. So it's more of, you know, people, you know, being genuine people, you know.
Well, that's wonderful, wonderful. And can you talk about the opportunities that have arisen for your company because of the pandemic?
So one big thing that has shown light, these buildings that are non-occupied for a long time, office buildings, anything that has been affected by COVID, you know, the occupancy is going down. It's showing all of the weaknesses in the balancing systems, because now we go back in and we see that there's been stagnant water in certain legs of these branches, and we see that waterborne pathogens are created because of the stagnant water. So we've recognized this. The pandemic basically shone a light on it, and it shows that we do need to change, and it's helped us in that sense. And it also shed light on the fact that cold water recirculation is now a big push for us. So we think that recirculating hot water gives us temperature, gives us the ability to kill Legionella. With cold water, you want to keep it under 68 degrees. So now we know we want to keep water under 68 degrees, make sure we're recirculating it and killing Legionella and ensuring it never grows, really. And that's all come to light realistically because of the pandemic.
Wow, that's great. And have you seen, I guess, like, talk to me about your newest and latest and greatest product, the Circuit Solver Union Cold Water Balancing Valve?
Yeah. So that's when I mentioned the cold water needs to be recirculated, or there is a need for recirculated cold water. We've created essentially a valve, our Circuit Solver, that works the opposite of our current Circuit Solver. So our current Circuit Solver closes on hot temperature and opens on cold temperature, where this valve would close on cold temperature and open on hot temperature. So the reason for this is it's going to balance a recirculation system for cold water. Cold water, you want to maintain it below 68 degrees to ensure it doesn't grow Legionella, and it needs to be balanced the same way a hot water system needs to be balanced. So it'll close off when it gets to 65-ish degrees, let's call it, and force water onto the next path of least resistance, and keep doing that throughout the system and ensure that all of the water in the system is at an appropriate temperature, 65 degrees.
Okay, so, and could you tell us a little bit, I may jump back and forth again, so a little bit about what to expect from you at AHR today at the show.
Yeah, so that cold water balancing valve that I mentioned was actually released today.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
I know that.
So we are displaying it in a grand fashion, I'd call it. We have a water feature where we're showing that the water we have pumps connected to our our circuit solver that are shooting up water essentially. And when water gets to a temperature above 68 degrees, it'll close off, and that's visually, you're able to see that. And we'll turn on the cold water then and allow cold water to get to this valve, and it'll actually close off at that point. So it demonstrates how the circuit solver works, and it's a pretty interesting display.
So I guess everyone should stop by your booth if you're here.
Yes,
right?
everyone stop by booth N9137. We're displaying all of our circuit solver products as well as the circuit solver cold water balancing valve, which just came out today.
Yeah. So, and I know I jumped the gun a little bit about touting where to go, but the explanation of how we can see the circuit solver water, your new Union cold water balancing valve live in action was too good to not ask about the where you have to go to see it. Do you think, where do you think the industry is headed in terms, what sort of trends are going to be impacting the plumbing industry in the next few years?
Yeah, so I think data is very big in the plumbing industry now. So seeing what's happening in these systems is more important to people now than ever, especially because we have the equipment to do this. So I would say the plumbing industry is moving towards the data, and what they're seeing is, you can see with mixing valves, digital mixing valves, VFD pumps, all these different types of equipment in the plumbing systems, they now have the ability to give feedback on a building information system, building management system, and that's coming forward in the plumbing industry, in my opinion.
Right, and how do you think this is going to benefit the plumbing industry as a whole?
So it gives you just full insight into what's happening in your system. You know what the temperatures are in your fixtures, you know what the pressure throughout your system is. It helps you troubleshoot. So it gives you so much information that's valuable, and it's worth the cost. And I think that's where we were kind of backing off in the beginning, but now I think it's somewhere that we're actually moving towards.
And what do you think motivated this push toward building management systems and adapting plumbing technology to be more accessible to operators and engineers?
Yeah,
you know?
I think, I can't say it's 100% COVID, but once again, I think that does give you a push, because during COVID, you don't know what's happening in your system when you're shutting these buildings down, and that becomes detrimental to the system, because now you have to do a full-on repair sometimes. Sometimes you don't even know what's wrong. So it takes, COVID's one instance, and then we are becoming a little bit more accepting of new technologies in the plumbing industry. So it's twofold there. So I think we're more willing, we're understanding that things need to change at some point, and it's going in the right direction. So why not change soon rather than later?
That's great. So tell me a little bit more about what PHCPPros can expect from your company in the coming year.
Yeah, so we have a lot coming, some big things. 2022, we just released this circuit solver cold water valve for cold water balancing. We also have a thermal disinfection valve coming out, which we had a sanitary flush, which is being renamed to our thermal disinfection valve. That's for high temperature disinfections for cold water systems, which kill Legionella. And we're working on a lot of stuff that I'm pretty excited about that could potentially come out in 2023.
Okay, well, thank you. I look forward to hearing the news.
Yeah.
Again, tell our viewers where we can visit you here at the show.
Yeah. So booth N9137, and visit us at circuitsolver.com, please, too. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you very much, Aaron, for your time.
Yeah.
And everyone else, I thank you for joining us, and we will see you in a few minutes. Have a great day.